Hi, and welcome to the final part of our four-part series, How to Automate Testing for the Procure-to-Pay process for Microsoft Dynamics 365 FSCM. We've been using the Executive Automats test automation tool to carry out the test in this series. In the previous videos, we created 3 automated test scripts that define the end-to-end process. These were create a new vendor, create a purchase order and goods receipt, invoice the purchase order and pay the vendor. In this video, we're going to create an end-to-end process by linking these 3 scripts together and sharing the saved variables between the scripts so we can run a single script to validate the end-to-end process. So let's get started. Let's go to our AP project and select to create a new script. We will call the script Procure to Pay End-to-End Process. Now we have our new script, we need to link in our 3 individual scripts into this main one. We do that by selecting New Step, Scripts, then select the script that we want to include, click Next and then OK. We can view the attached script by selecting it and then clicking the Open button. This opens the Create a New Vendor script. Now let's add our other 2 scripts. I'll speed it up slightly. Now we have all of our scripts attached, we need to look at what variables are available in each script. Let's look at Create a New Vendor. Here we can see we have vendor ID. We will need to use the vendor ID in the second script. So let's take a look at our second script, Create a Purchase Order and Goods Receipt. Here we can see on step 5 we need to use the vendor ID. To link scripts together we need to have the same variable in both scripts. So we'll need to add a variable manually so they exist in both scripts. Let's add the vendor ID to our second script. Okay, now we need to take a look in our second script to see what variables are available and what we would need to share into our third script. So here we can see we need the PO number, and we would need that in our third script. So let's open our third script. So we can see in step 4 we would need the PO number. If we continue to scroll down, we'll see that at step 29 we're also going to need the vendor ID. We don't have either of those variables, so we'll need to add them manually. Now we have all our variables, we need to link them between the scripts. So in script 2, we need to use the vendor ID. We link this using override variables. Let's add the vendor ID as the override, select the picker, and from scripts, we'll select the create new vendor. Now in our third script, we'll need to link both the PO number and the vendor ID. So let's add those both now. Now we've linked all our variables, we need to go into each of our scripts and update the steps that need updating to use those variables. In our create purchase order script, we'll update step 5 to use the variable vendor ID. In our third script, we'll update step 4 to use the purchase order number variable. We will also need to update the step 29 to use the vendor ID. So now we've linked all of our variables and we've updated all the steps we need to update. Let's change the status of this test to in progress. So let's play back the script to make sure everything is working as expected. We'll play it in the foreground so you can see it execute. Executive automats will play each script in turn. So you can see the steps execute. I'll manually open each script on the left hand side. I'll speed up the video to save a little time. Here we see our vendor ID variable has been saved as vendor account 9. So now that script's finished and we've created our new vendor, EA will move on to the next script to create the purchase order. Here we can see script 2 uses the correct variable from script 1, which is the vendor account 9. So our linking was correct. Executive Automats continues to execute the script and saves the PO number as a variable for us to use in the next script. Now our third script starts. Script 3 uses the correct variable from script 2, which is the purchase order number. Again, our linking is now correct. For our payment journal, you can see it's used the correct variable from script 3, has used it from script 1, which was the vendor ID. Now our main script is finished. Let's go and look at the history. Here we can see the state is finished and it's successful. In the history you can expand each script to look at all the steps taken. Here we can see in the second script it used the variable vendor account 9. In our third script, you can see we have two variables used, one for the purchase order number and one for the vendor account. So our end-to-end script has run successfully. Let's update the status of that script to published. So, to recap, we created a new script for our end-to-end process that linked all of our scripts into the main one. Next, we identified all the variables we needed and added them as required so each script had the same variable. We then linked the variables between scripts using override variables. And finally, we updated the steps in each script so they used the shared variables. As you can see, it's very easy in Executive Automats to create end-to-end processes using individual scripts and linking them together. Well, I hope you enjoyed this 4-part series on how to automate testing of the procure-to-pay process using Executive Automats. If you would like further information on how Executive Automats can help automate your testing, please do contact me and I will be happy to discuss your requirements in more detail and provide a demo. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as we will be doing more videos on how Executive Automats can save you time and money. Thanks for watching.